No, see, I'd like to change it up. I like to have something with a little more style, a little bit more brim of the hat. No, it's fine if you don't like it. I like it. It's fine. It works fine. Hello, everyone. Geriatric here with Geriatric Midnight Movie Review, and tonight it was Doctor Strange. Now, this movie is very interesting in the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe because we have dealt with the powers created by the Super Soldier Serum, Captain America, Bruce Banner, the Hulk, and then we kind of went into Thor, in which we talked about the other realms, such as Asgard, which is just more advanced technologically. Then with Guardians of the Galaxy, we started talking about the different worlds that are out there in the galaxy. So with Doctor Strange, we actually start talking about the mythical aspects of the Marvel Universe. The story is this. Stephen Strange is a brilliant surgeon, but this brilliance has also come with arrogance. He believes himself to be the best and will only take cases that he thinks he can win so he can have a perfect record. A car crash changes everything, and Stephen's hands are injured to the point where he has a tremor in them, which means he can't perform anymore. This leads him to search out every available medical procedure to try to restore his hand just so he can get back to this life that he knows. His journey eventually takes him to Kathmandu, and a group of practitioners led by a being known as the Ancient One who tell him that they can restore his hands, but there is a much larger battle that has to be fought. Benedict Cumberbatch is Doctor Strange, which, much like Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, he seems tailor-made for this role. He has to play a role where he has to start out very arrogant, very sure of himself, be totally broken down after the accident, and then build himself back up. And he does it very well. Anyone who's a fan of Sherlock or any of the countless films that he's done know that he can pull off this type of character. One of the most controversial things that happened in this movie was the casting of, Tilda Swinton, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, as the Ancient One, the teacher of this. Now, in the comics, the Ancient One is considered to be an Oriental man. And there was a lot of controversy about whitewashing in this film, but she plays it very well because she plays someone who is in the long line of people who have been taught or even chosen to be the focal point against the evil beings that are trying to take over this dimension. A character who is very interesting in this film is played by, and I know I'm going to screw this one up, but it's Chidwell Ejor plays Carl Mordo. Now, Mordo in the comic books is a villain, but in this movie, he is actually a friend to Strange. He is actually his ally, sort of his sidekick. But things happen in this movie where you start to see cracks in that relationship. And so this was also a very interesting choice to start off with someone who is really, portrayed, as we know in the comic books, as a villain, and actually start him off as a friend. Now, the main antagonist of this, well, it's twofold, really. God, this movie just has a ton of people. Its name I can't pronounce. It's Mattis Milkinson, who plays Calculus, something like that. And he is basically a guy who was studied, like Stephen Strange, under the Ancient One, but has decided to take a darker path. And this kind of leads him to try to break down the barriers between our world and a very dark realm owned by a guy named Abdominal. He is very interesting, though, because his reasoning for doing this is never explicitly stated. You just kind of have to pick it up from the movie, and the reason is actually not so different from a hero. Something has happened in his life that he has decided that this is the best course of action. As I said, this movie is very good because it brings something new to the Marvel Universe, because now we have to talk about the other dimensions. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., television show, has already started this because now they've introduced Ghost Rider, who we know comes from a hell-like dimension. The biggest thing about this movie, the thing that really is impressive, is the visuals. For magic, it's, especially with the Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings, we've kind of seen magic in forms, but we've never seen it quite like this. It seems like spaces bend and change and replicate and mirror, and to a point where you almost start getting confused. It's almost like an M.C. Escher painting that has come to life, and it's spectacular. I mean, people weren't clapping when I was in there watching; they were just in awe watching it. The story is very good. It's a very kind of interesting twist on the whole superhero origin story, because Stephen Strange isn't here because something bad has happened to him or he's done something wrong and he wants to redeem himself. His life has been taken away, and all he wants is just to get that life back. It's only through a series of encounters that he starts realizing there is a bigger world out there. This was directed by Scott Dickerson, who, I'm trying to think right now, what else has he done? He actually, it's interesting because he's done a lot of horror films prior to this, such as Sinister, that great movie with Ethan Hawke, and The Exorcism of Emily Rose, which was a very good twist on the whole exorcism story. But he does a very good job. He takes a different approach, especially with this type of treatment, because Doctor Strange was always kind of like part of the Marvel Universe, a very big part. A lot of characters talk about him. He's respected a lot, but his stories aren't very mainstream because they deal with a lot of alternate dimensions, spells, and stuff like that. But he does it a very good. So yeah, I really like this movie. Please go check it out. It does start setting up for what we know is coming, which is the Avengers, the Infinity War. And of course, it's a Marvel movie. Stick around for 2 post-credit scenes, one in the middle of the credits, one in the end. You might see a familiar face from the Marvel Universe. Rated PG-13 for violence, language, but nothing really else than that. And even, interestingly enough, the violence is actually not that extreme. It's used very, I guess appropriately would be the word. So yeah, go check it out. And get ready for I think we're on phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So this is Geriatric for Geriatric Midnight Movie Review, telling you, if you're not going to the movies, then what are you doing with your life? No, you got something to say? Say it. No, speak your mind. You think I look like Pharrell? I don't think so. I think it looked good. I think it looked real good. I got the nice hat, looking good, and or a 19th century Undertaker. You know what, Gary? Sometimes you just gotta realize that I have style and you don't. Of the Roman Catholic Church. But if you're one of those people who didn't like those movies because of those ideas, you might want to give this one a try. There is no religious aspect here. It is truly just Professor Langdon